Welcome in, everybody. It is a special edition of our board meeting. We are Bully the Board. Kevin, Seth, and Steve with you as always. Special guest, not to bury the lead, Tom Viola joins us for this inaugural episode of Oz on Insight. Let's get into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
All right. Tom Viola, Associate Director of Content for Unabated Sports. Sir, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're kind of all across the U.S. right now, spread out. So this is a good time. Exciting for everyone. So don't want to bury the lead here, Tom. We all kind of come from different backgrounds, and we all here at this table, into sports betting, into analytics, etc. But to kick us off, we need your villain origin story. How did you get from where you were, growing up to now being in the chair you are, and what drew you to sports betting?
Oh, I'll tell you, I'll give you the abridged version because it's been a long and winding road here that brought me to this chair that we're in right now. But thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk with you guys today. And the short answer is I knew since I was a kid, like second grade, listening to Chris Berman do ESPN highlights. That's what I want to do. I want to be in sports. I want to talk about sports for a living. And I always thought that would be play-by-play. I thought I was going to be a play-by-play broadcaster. Went to Syracuse, studied broadcast, and moved out to Vegas to do a radio show for a soccer team here. And it was a sports betting, soccer betting focused radio show for the USL team here, the Lights. And I kind of parlayed that into working as a producer for VSiN, Brent Musburger's network. And I was Brent's producer. I worked my way up to being the producer for Uncle Brent, and I got to talk sports with him every day. And like, that was my intro to the world of gambling. And I got to meet so many interesting people doing that job, including my roommate, Aaron Kessler, who's been a bookmaker for about 20 years in this city. And I met so many fantastic people working in sports, and I just kept going on the trail of, hey, wait a second, betting is like, that's the future. That's all anyone's going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Anyone I asked about was saying, yeah, you want to dig into that sports betting stuff because that's what's going to be valuable in 10 years. And not even, it hasn't even been 10 years. And here we are. And I just got so fortunate to be friends with Rufus Peabody, one of the founders behind our company, Unabated. And through him, I was looking for a job in content. And he was like, wait, we want to start doing more content at Unabated and really get our name out there for people. And from there, it was a perfect match.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, rest is history, as they say, right? And still a lot to be written. Still a lot to be written for sure. So some of our listeners or followers might know, which caveat, forgot at the start. For anyone listening, if you are not already, please like and subscribe to the videos, to our YouTube pages. All of our socials are at Bully the Board. You can see it at the bottom there. Would really help us tremendously in growing our platform. One of the core components, what key things that we want to focus on with this Oz on Insight and page in general is just bringing value and educational content to the sports betting community, right? Like, yes, we're big in sports analytics and we're big on the numbers, etc. But the other half of the mission is bringing valuable insight to the masses. So, Tom, you alluded to it, so I want to get into it quickly here as well. But talk to us a little bit about Unabated, because again, as some of our followers might know, we have a partnership with you guys. That's how kind of we got to know you a little bit behind the scenes, right? And we've had a couple of calls off and on, but we talk about it often on our platforms. And it's one of the things where we see, and I think we collectively agree on this, where it is such a unique tool that a lot of people frankly may not know about. The casual bettor, like the average recreational bettor, may not know or at least appreciate the full breadth of what it is. So talk to us a little bit about what Unabated is and how it can be useful to both the casuals and some of the hardcore sports bettors that are more into analytics.
So Unabated is a toolbox for bettors. We're here to help you make smarter bets and at the end of the day be able to have more value in your numbers because we offer you the tools that help you to actually beat sports books. You talk about a lot about analytics, about sports analytics, about being data driven in your analysis of games. And that's what Unabated really helps you do. It's a top-down bettor's dream. If you want to be able to just read the market and have the tools to be able to say, okay, this number is moving here. I can actually physically quantify the edge that I have on this bet. The Bears are +3 this weekend, but I have a +3.5 number here. It's the better number, but how much better is it? Is it worth betting that? Unabated has the tools that help you figure that out, that help you identify those spots where you have that edge. And it's not just insides and totals. We have fantastic prop simulators, things like that, season simulators even. It's a whole bunch of fantastic tools to help you bet smarter, all driven by real data science, built by some of the best in the business, guys like Rufus Peabody, Captain Jack, Peter Jennings. Like, these are pro bettors that built this stuff, guys that made literal millions just winning, and they want to help other people get to that point. They want other people to win too.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that and kind of connected to your origin story. So, thinking about Unabated as a tool, and obviously I'm sure it's something you're using in your handicapping and how you're kind of analyzing games, but part of your origin story is you had some of the best sports bettors in the world as kind of mentors, it sounds like. How was that transition from being introduced to sports betting and then being kind of thrown into, I would say, the deepest end? What is that transition like? Because, we interact with, sports bettors on all across the spectrum, right? Like super, super deep, like, yourself, but like also at the beginning stages. So what was that like for you to kind of get introduced to the analytics world and then kind of grow and learn as a sports bettor?
Oh, I'll tell you, it was really a trip. I've been there I'm coming up, like, this is my 1-year anniversary this week in Unabated. And
Congrats.
it is just night and day, even looking back. We did an episode last week on the Unabated podcast where I sat down and I talked with Rufus about data modeling and what it is that he does and how he gets his edge. And
great episode, by the way.
Thank you so much. We're sitting there doing it, and afterwards we stop and I just go, wow, could you imagine me asking you those questions a year ago? And he's like, no, you've come so far. But it really was like, I felt like a fish out of water at first. I mean, I wasn't a bettor at all until I moved to Vegas, which was 5 years ago now. As a matter of fact, I was doing some cleaning the other day and I found the card where I had John Murray from the Superbook at the Westgate's phone number on, so that I could call him up and actually get a tutorial on, like, hey, how does a money line work? Like, what do the odds mean? Like, the most basic stuff. And to be doing this stuff now is just so incredible. It really was. It was a difference in the understanding. Like, that's what had to shift for me, because the thing that I didn't understand about sports betting and successful sports betting before I joined Unabated was it's not about picking winners. It really isn't that you want to be able to sit there and be, oh, I think that the Eagles are going to win this week because I like their offensive line and the Jets secondary is banged up. Blah, dot. I'm going to take the Eagles. You're going to be right sometimes and you're going to be wrong sometimes. But the way the house edge works, you're going to be wrong more than you're right, and you're going to lose money on that. But when you shift your perspective and go, I want to beat the market, that's top-down betting. And that is a way that you can actually have long-term sustained success. When you start understanding that sports betting is a marketplace and it works more like stocks, and you understand, okay, the Vikings are 8-point underdogs this week, but the number opened 8.5, and some books are already moving it to 7.5. That means that people who are a lot smarter than I am like the Vikings this week at this number. I should probably get some of that. And that is, and there are multiple other ways that you can be a profitable sports bettor, but that's the one that Unabated focuses on. And it's called top-down betting. It's when you let the market dictate your source of truth, and you're using the market against itself and saying, okay, if the market is here and this number is an outlier here, I should probably go ahead and take that outlier number because it's probably wrong, and the market's going to adjust and move to the right number.
Yeah, and Unabated obviously offers other tools, right, from the bottom up side of things too.
Yeah.
So you can run your own sims, put your numbers in there. And when you're talking about, oh, the offensive line is good, I think a lot of people struggle with that, because if you're going to get into that world, then you need to say how good, right? How many points is that worth, and what is that? And then when you combine that with with the bottom down approach, like, you can really get a lot. And I think Unabated offers, honestly, in my opinion, both of those tools. And really, we've come to make it part of our handicapping, and really, really think it's an important tool for just looking at the market, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do the math so that you don't have to. I'm not a math.
Yeah.
I broadcast major. Can't do math to save my life. But we essentially have these tools set up so that you can say, hey, you don't have to do any coding. You don't have to know Python. You don't have to be able to scrape data into an Excel spreadsheet and run a Monte Carlo simulator. We do all that stuff, but we have all that stuff done for you. So you can literally just take power rankings, put them in, take player projections, put them in, and we'll do the simulation half for you so that you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you talk about this journey you've come so far in just 1 year, which again, hats off. I guess since you're so close to it, like we all are, can you talk about why new bettors should even care about this data-driven process? Because I think the hard part that a lot of us run into is everyone has that ego, right? Everyone goes, oh, I can look at this board and I know, the Bears are going to lose and I know, the Dolphins are going to cover and I know X, Y, and Z. But how do you really explain to someone who's new to this why they should really ditch the ego of intuition and really stick to this data-driven process of top-down or bottom-up or whatever it may be?
I mean, it is so hard. And it is something that even now I'll be looking at a number and I'll say like, oh, I have an edge, but I don't really want to bet that because I don't want to be betting against the 49ers this week. The Browns have a backup quarterback. Although granted, that was a game where stuff happens because the number said bet the Niners there. But you're right. It's about checking that ego at the door and understanding that these numbers aren't just being put up by some guy in a back room that's throwing darts at the wall. They're not even being put up by a guy in the back room who has a state-of-the-art model. The sports book puts up a number. Most of the time, that number at the very beginning is just their guy's best guess. They'll have some rudimentary form of power rankings and things that they go by. But what these sports books are doing, and not all of them, but that's getting into a whole different conversation of recreational versus sharp books. But at the end of the day, these numbers are being produced because a book puts up a line and then they let those actual sharp guys, the sharps that we talk about, who are the sharps betting, they let those guys go out, start betting, picking off the numbers, and then they just move them like that. And it's all about that acquisition of information. They are paying the price of, we're probably going to lose to this guy, but we're getting valuable information on what this number should be. And we're moving the number based off that. And if we get to the right number as quickly as possible, we're going to make more money taking everybody else's money when they go to bet the game. And that's what you really have to understand when it comes to what these numbers mean and who you're betting against. Like, if you sit down on Sunday morning and you go, okay, time to fire up my one sports book app and just look at some lines and pick games that I like, you are going to just be burning your money because you're betting into the sharpest market there is at the worst possible time. And that's the thing. I get having fun. I'm not a professional bettor. This is obviously my job. And then the betting is all just stuff on top of it for me. But I get having fun. I get making some recreational bets. I do it all the time. I go to a Knights game. I'm betting the Knights and over. I don't care how sharp it is. But when you want to actually start winning money at this game, you really do need to take it to the next level of process. You can't just be one of those guys that sits there and goes, oh, I watch 8 hours of football a day. I know what I'm doing. Because guess what? Every great sports bettor I have ever talked to has always said one thing. The person that says, oh, I watch a ton of sports, that's how I know all this stuff, is the person who does not know how to bet.
So I'll say real quick, are you on record saying that 2-1 Vegas does not always know from the get-go, and 2, there is no NFL script? Because I think those are 2 hot takes that we got here first.
Well, of course there's a script. There's a script every week. Come on. That is the biggest thing. The people who say it's rigged, it's not rigged. Do you know how much money? The fact that we don't know at this point, like no one's ever come out and been like, yeah, it's rigged. Yeah. That's all the indication you need. You really think you'd keep that quiet?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know how many people get cut each year? They'd be like, let me write a book. I got an idea.
That's the funniest thing about it, though. Like when it comes to games that are actually fixed, like the Arizona State point shaving scandal. Donaghy. It's the leagues go, oh no, if we have sports betting, then people be fixing games, it'll be terrible. Yeah. Sports books are always the ones who are the first one to say, hey, the betting on this game is weird. We think something's up with this one. Every single time it's the sports books who do it first. That Arizona State, have you guys watched Bad Sport on Netflix, that documentary series that they did?
No.
They had really, really good. Go look it up in your spare time. It's like a mini series, and each one's an hour, and it's an hour-long documentary about a different sports scandal. One of them was the Arizona State point shaving scandal. And oh, it was hilarious how just nonchalant these guys were. I was like, no wonder you got caught, because you can't, if you bet more than like 10K at a book,
Yeah.
the book has to, like, they have to take down your account information. They have to do all this stuff for the government for tax purposes. And so these guys' brilliant thought was, well, to fly under the radar, we'll just bet $9,900 on every time we bet, so that we'll fly under the radar.
Yeah.
That's the biggest red flag there is. That's when the book goes, okay, now we have to file a suspicious activity report on you.
Yeah. And I think this happened as recent as last season in it was, I think, LSU Alabama baseball game. They got caught, and I think it was at MGM, if I'm not mistaken, and they were the ones that flagged it. Yeah, I mean, it's just they're in the business of not losing money, right? They're going to protect their their assets at all costs.
Exactly.
I have a question, Tom. So maybe the punchline or short answer to this is you can only lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink it. But everything that we just talked about and everything that you just described, we obviously agree with. But there's clear to us from, again, we've only kind of been doing this from a social media public eye perspective for a couple of years ourselves, right? But it's pretty evident that there are so many casual new sports bettors out there that have just absolutely no idea. You basically just spoke Chinese to them if they were to listen back to that, right? There's a huge knowledge gap between most recreational bettors and understanding how markets work, understanding how lines are made, etc. So, like, from your perspective, how do you think we can, content creators, folks like you at Unabated and companies like Unabated, can kind of either work together or somehow independently bridge that gap? Like, what can be done, if anything, do you think?
So there's definitely stuff that can be done, but you're completely right. Especially with the tools at Unabated, I'll be completely open and honest about this to anyone that wants to sign up and give us a try. Use that code BTB for a 5-day trial, but you're going to open up that odd screen for the first time. And yeah, you could be a little overwhelmed with all of the data, all the stuff being thrown at you at once. Yeah. And that's definitely something that we at Unabated that's a product challenge for us. And we're trying to bridge that gap by the fact that you can now, like, if you sign up for that trial, you're going to get an email directly from me, not a listserv email, an email from me saying, hey, we have a whole bunch of stuff here. Here's some resources to help you out. And also set up a one-on-one with me. We'll go through 30 minutes. I'll walk you through the tools myself and show you how to do that. But going into the broader world of how we turn recs into sharps, some of the challenges there are just completely unavoidable. Like, a lot of sharp Twitter, a lot of sharp gamblers don't want to share their information, and they don't have an interest in helping people.
It's fair.
So right off the bat there, you've got that gap of entry, but that doesn't mean that you still can't get into it. The other side is some people just don't want to. Some people just want to sit there on Sunday and have a few bets on the game, and that's totally fine. Like, more power to you. You understand that this is recreational. You understand that this is for fun. Go for it. But for that group in the middle, the aspiring sharp, the person who says, hey, I like doing this. I don't necessarily need to go pro in it. I don't need to quit my job and make this my career, but I want to be good at it. I want to bet, within my means, but know that I'm making good bets when I do it. Those are the people that we can help. And the way we do that is through education, through talking and putting out content like this, like the stuff that you guys put out. I found you guys on TikTok because I looked at some of your videos and was like, these guys know what they're talking about. They're trying to put out something good that people will hear and go, oh, okay, this makes me subtly change how I understand what all this is. This isn't just guys giving out their picks. And that's what I think that's the gap that we have as content creators in this space that we have to try and overcome, because the other reality is picks get clicks. Like, we could be putting out 5-leg parlays here, a 10-leg goat whale, and that's going to get way more views. And it is resisting that and trying to overcome that, and at least accepting, yeah, we're probably not going to get the entire swath of people who are interested in sports betting, but like, we can get, especially the college kid who's an econ major, we can get the guy who just likes numbers, happen to be an accountant, something like that, or even just anyone who's interested in being good at something. and they want to like, if they're going to do something, they want to be really good at it. Like, those are the kind of people that we can go after, and we can actually say, hey, you can learn how to do this, and it's not actually that hard. It's work, but it's not too much work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy because you hear, we run into this issue all the time on social media where you see the guys, just like you mentioned, these touts who are giving out these mega well goat locks, and people are like, oh yeah, follow that guy, he can't miss. And then we talk about this process of how you can be a smarter, better, and there's a modeling and data going involved. They're like, no, you can't do that. No, that's impossible. Like, oh, that's the impossible part. Like, actually showing you how to get better at this. But I want to ask a philosophical question to you, because that is one of my concerns, because we're so new in the US with sports betting, right? And we know that the companies, and understandably so, they're out here to make money, right? They're offering this as entertainment for us to take our money. If you don't go into this with a plan, they're going to bleed you dry. And we see this with high holds, with every new way of one game, same game, whatever you want to call it, parlays, micro markets, etc. If we don't educate the general consumer, like, where do you see the industry going? Like, is this actually sustainable, of bleeding these, quote unquote suckers or wrecks dry because they just want to throw their money into, losing bets?
Oh, absolutely not. The industry as it stands needs to make some changes, because, I mean, if you're just going to obliterate people with high holds, and if they even get lucky and win, like string a couple wins together, you just kick them out. That's not a sustainable business plan long term. Eventually, you're going to run out of suckers. And there's an art to it. I mean, it's like blackmailing or extortion. You don't just go for everything at once. You're trying to like take things out. You bleed them over time, and that's what sports books aren't understanding right now. They're just taking people and shaking them down and seeing what falls out. And like, you can't. You're going to burn through your customer base so quickly if that's all you're doing, and that's something that a lot of these sports books don't understand. And quite frankly, the other scary thing that I think we're looking down the barrel of is we were just at G2E this week, which is the Global Gaming Expo here in Vegas. It's where all the bigwigs, all the Caesars, FanDuel, everyone is out showing off the new technology, the new stuff that they have coming for the next year. 2018 to 2021-ish, everything was sports betting. Everything. That was the market everybody wanted to be in. This year, it was all slot machines. We're back to the slot game, which is, of course, the casino's biggest money maker. But the sports betting is starting to hit that consolidation point. FanDuel is very clearly the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to market share in the United States. DraftKings is behind them, not by a ton, but by a significant amount. And then everyone else is trying to pick up some scraps right now. You see it in some of the closures that we've had, like FoxBet, WinBet, PointsBet being sold to Fanatics. Companies are starting to dry up and say, okay, we didn't make it in the space. We didn't make it to what we want. And when that happens, we lose outs. We lose places that we can bet. And that's bad for every kind of bettor, because what's the number one thing that we always say? Like, the number one basic tool that you can use to be a better bettor, it's price shopping. It's looking at different books and making sure that you always get the best price when you make your bet. Even if you're one of those people that's just betting with your gut, if you will at the very least lose a little bit less money if you take the time to go around to every sports book and make sure you get the best price on every bet that you make. And when we have fewer options for that, it hurts every bettor.
Yeah, that's exactly right. One thing I wanted to ask, piggybacking off that and kind of going to the middle of our conversation, was around, bridging that gap of knowledge. One of the other things I think we struggle with is also the expectation of what even sharp bettors look like when they win. And then, piggybacking to Steve's question here, then like, and to your point, Tom, like this give and take here, you don't want people going, 20% win rate. That's horrible. Obviously, it's not fun at all. But on the other side of that, when new bettors are introduced into sports betting and they do run into somebody that says they have, they're up 100 units in the last month, and they have no idea if that's even feasible. And so they just assume it is. Like, can you talk a little bit about your exposure? Because it sounds like you've been exposed to some of the best bettors in the world, and I'm sure they maybe talk about those things. But like, what does realistic expectation, even for someone with an edge, look like?
I'll tell you, real G's move in silence like lasagna. That is the number one thing that I can tell you about the big guys. they don't post their wins. They'll talk about their losses a lot more than they'll talk about their wins. Like one night I was out with a friend of mine who is one of those top dogs, and we were just talking. I was like, "Oh, how'd your college football do today?" He's like, lost $250,000. We'll be back next week. Like, just ever so casually, just, down $250,000 this week. But it happens even to the best, because the reality of this game is that if you hit at 58%, if you were a 58% better, you're the best in the world.
Yeah.
Like, if you were consistently hitting at a number like that, it's absolutely insane. Mostly because no one is hitting at 58%. Like, the best guys are getting to 56%. You are going to lose an awful lot. It's all about winning more than 52%. And that's what everyone is really trying for. Like, anyone who you see touting a record that says like, oh, I'm a 65% winner, I'm an 80% winner, they're not, they're lying to you. Or they've been betting for 2 months and variance hasn't kicked in. Because everything with sports betting, when you want to actually make money doing it, even if it's not professionally, even if it's still just semi-pro, it's all about the law of large numbers. And it's like card counting in blackjack. If you play a blackjack shoe long enough to the end of it, you're going to lose money by the end of the shoe. If you were just playing each hand, even by basic strategy, like you're not overcoming the house edge there. Card counters, what they're doing is they're finding their spots where they have that edge and increasing their stake. And that's how they make their money. But with sports betting, it is all about finding those edges and just being disciplined and always hitting them. Your goal isn't to pick every game correctly. Your goal is to find the prices that don't match up with what they should be. If I have a coin flip, if I'm offering you 50-50 odds on a coin flip, that's even money. That's no edge for either side on a 50-50 bet. We could do that all day and we're just trading the same dollar back and forth.
Yep.
If I offer you $11 to my 10, all of a sudden you have an edge there, and you should be betting that all day long, because it's all about the fact that the price you are being offered is better than the actual probability of that event happening. That's why some things, like, if there's no such thing as too much juice. If it's minus 10,000 juice on the sun coming up tomorrow, I'll gladly take that bet each and every day. It's guaranteed. And that's what people don't understand when they're getting into betting, and they think that it's all about picking the right spot, picking the right games. Price rules everything around you. That's what Spreadopedia, the guy I do Deep Left, our baseball show with, he loves to say. Like, a bet at one price doesn't mean that it's a bet that I want to take at another price.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think the other thing that you hit on too is variance. And I think especially beginning sports bettors do not understand variance. And I think that's the thing, that when you're trying to spread information to, I think people, they struggle, like, because the tout doesn't talk about variance, right? They only talk about wins. So you're like, oh yeah, like today was a good day. Yeah, we went 5-3. And they're like, what do you mean? You should have went 8-0. Like, this is crazy. And to your point, right? It's really getting money down good, getting good bets, and in the larger sample size, then you should have an edge. But obviously, variance is complicated. I think that's a really good time to kind of talk a little bit about the Unabated odds screen. And to your point, shopping those lines and really seeing those discrepancies. I think one of the coolest things that we like about the Unabated odds screen is this idea of the market makers and the retail books. I know we hit on it a little bit, and we don't want to obviously get too far deep here, but just that delineation of, there are these two different books, and they do provide you two very different levels of information. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, so the odds screen is the be all end all for it. It's our number one tool by far. It's the thing that everybody is on the most. It's our most trafficked option, and it's a great place to spot that value even at a glance, because, again, the number one thing you can do as a bettor is price shop. And this is how you price shop. It's everything all in one place, because you don't want to have to open up your DraftKings app, and then you got to go open up your FanDuel app, and then you got to go open up PointsBet and just go through all of them finding the same game. All of that information is right here on the screen for you. And it's also quantified. Like, we tell you, this is the best line. You don't even have to look for it on our screen. We already show it to you. Yeah. And then we have also something special called the Unabated line. And what the Unabated line is basically, it's our own special blend. It's not just a consensus of every book out there, averaging them together and saying, this is the average price of this game. The Unabated line is saying, this is the true fair price on this game given what the market is saying right now. And we get that by, we take the different books that we know are sharp, because there's a difference between your DraftKings and your FanDuels that are soft books that are really just copying the homework of sharp books that take sharp action and are moving lines, and that their numbers are going to be more accurate. So we take a look at those sharp books for any given sport, blend those numbers together, and then say, okay, the market is currently saying, like, these three books have this price at -3.5, -110, -3, -107, et cetera, et cetera. We put it all together and we say the fair price on this game based on the market right now is this, which means mathematically, any price you can find in the market better than that, you have a quantifiable mathematical edge when you're going to bet. And that makes a good bet. And you can see them all right there on the odds screen. And it's not just that. You can see line history. Like, you can just click on a number and instantly see. Every week I do a market report on Twitter where I'm saying, hey, this is how all of the numbers have moved from Sunday to Tuesday in the NFL spreads market. All I'm doing is looking at the line history for every game based on what we have. And you can look at that movement and say, oh, people are betting this game. Like, the people whose opinion matters, people who move numbers are betting this game. I should probably be going with the market on this one. Or the people bet this game already and that number's already gone, and I don't have an edge here and I should probably stay away.
Maybe not chase that steam. So, I'd be curious to, so, obviously you have the tool at your disposal. So how are you approaching your sports betting? Are you looking to bet early in the week? Are you looking for some information in the market? How are you approaching this, and how are you using these tools?
So it all depends. First off, the fantastic thing about Unabated and what makes it so different is because we're not giving out picks. We have just these tools for you. And the thing with some of the pick services, even quote unquote good ones like Right Angle Sports, guys who are sharp in making these plays, they put out a play, their people get it. Like, anyone who's subscribed to them gets it, and everybody rushes to the window to bet it at the same time. Of course, you're going to get CLV on that bet. Everybody and their mother is betting this game. That number is going to move, and you're going to say, oh, good, I beat the market. No, you just beat the market that you artificially moved. But the other thing there is sportsbooks are going to see, 80 bets came in on this play at the same time. Raz released a play. These people are all following Raz. We're going to limit their accounts. With Unabated, you have so many different options. You have so many different ways that you can go and find edges. Like, some people are betting using our teaser tools. Some people are just using the odds screen. Some people are making money on alt lines. You have a ton of different options. Me personally, I'm doing a lot of prop stuff right now because props are an easier market to beat. If you're a bettor that's starting out and you go, I want to turn a $5,000 bankroll into $10,000, props are the way to do it. You have to have good numbers going in, and that's a conversation for a different episode of where you want to get your projections or building your own, things like that. But I take my prop projections, I put them into the Unabated simulator, and it simulates all the games for me, runs all the standard deviations, and tells me, hey, these are the props you have an edge on versus the market right now, and I take those. And then as far as what I'm doing each day in the week, it varies each day. Like, especially because I'm betting a lot of NFL right now. I also bet some soccer, which we don't actually have tools for. But your average week in the NFL, I recommend Sunday, you're looking at the opening lines for next week. Maybe there's something that you want to bet there, but for the most part, I'm waking up Monday morning when limits go up and when you can bet more, when sharp bettors are coming in to bet more money on these books and they're starting to move numbers. That's when you're going to see numbers start to move. The market's going to start to shift, and you get an idea of where the people who know what they're doing are going on this week's games. And I start picking numbers off there. Tuesday, it's the same thing. Limits go up again. It's another big market moving day. That's what you're doing. Wednesday's kind of a dead day. That's a great day to take stock of all of your bets. Track everything that you've had for this week. Track everything you've had for the last week. If you're not tracking your bets, that's one thing you should absolutely be getting on as soon as possible, because it's useful to tell, even if you're just telling how much money you've actually made or lost. It's very useful for that. And then it's also useful for like tracking your ROI or tracking your CLV. But Wednesday's kind of a dead day. Then Thursday, I'll be taking a look at some Thursday night football props as those lines go up. Maybe I'm doing a little of that Wednesday night. I'm done betting sides by Thursday because the market's putting those numbers in shape. The only thing you're going to get there is if Underdog announces, oh, hey, Trevor Lawrence is out for this game this weekend, that's going to move the line. maybe you can get there before anyone else. Good luck. But you're just trying to beat injury news at that point.
Yeah.
Then Friday and Saturday, you're looking at more props. This is when all of the lines are coming out for Sunday's games. This is when you can get some of those numbers in. And then Sunday morning, I wake up and it's my NFL teaser day. My Sunday morning from like 8 to 10 in the morning, Pacific time here. So that's when the games are kicking off. But 8 to 10 in the morning, I'm just betting all my teasers for the weekend, and then it all repeats.
Right. Start the process all over. I like it. And
Exactly.
I hear a lot of themes in there, right? Like it sounds like you're using the market information. Like you're also being really, I think, frankly, self-aware with your bets. Like, hey, like you're tracking these things. How are my numbers doing? Right. Like, so maybe I am this person that thinks I know sports. Okay. Well, I bet the game on Monday, and now here I am Wednesday, and I have negative CLV over and over and over and over and over. Maybe I don't know the sport. I mean, it sounds like you're tracking those things. And I think I wanted to just point it out. Like that's, so, if you have this theory about your approach, you can test it, right? That's the one thing I always see. I don't quite hear that part of it, right?
And I'll give you a great example that I'm doing right now. Like that I have to my plan for tomorrow after I finish all my stuff for work is I have to go through all of the props that I made last week and just keep track of those results, because I just started using a different blend of projections. Like I'm using a little bit of ETR and a little bit of some other stuff. And I'm going to be testing this out over the next several weeks. I'm going to be looking at, okay, how am I doing specifically on these? And it's not just, are my props winning? It's, these are passing yard props. These are receiving yard props. These are carry props. Like each different prop type, and saying, okay, I'm doing pretty well on these, but this blend isn't really working for passing yards, but it's doing really well in rushing attempts, and like figuring out who is sharpest at what and who is doing well at what, because it changes every season and it changes all the time. And you want to have that kind of data so that you can say, okay, I'm doing the right thing, or maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, but here's what I should change.
Yeah, exactly. Data driven.
Yeah. Yeah. And, hearing out your process, I mean, that sounds absolutely spectacular. Like you have this thing that kind of really nailed down to what your process is day by day. And that's lovely to hear, especially for a new bettor who may think they have a process, but like you said, their process is they roll over from their binger Saturday night and they check the odds on FanDuel or whatever. And I like this game, I like that game. But, outside of moving to Vegas and taking the Tom Viola internship to be the next unabated content guru, what would you recommend to bettors who say, hey, I hear what you just said, I've never thought of doing any of those things, how do I better educate myself to be a smarter bettor? Like where do I turn to?
I mean, I'm going to tout us here and say, check out Unabated for sure, because it's not just that we have the tools for you. We have a ton of educational stuff, and guys like you guys, you're doing the right thing too. This is all about educating and helping people be better, but they're already here. They're already listening to that stuff. Honestly, the number one piece of advice, this was required reading for me when I joined Unabated. Like Rufus said, if you're going to work here, you need to read this book first. And that's The Logic of Sports Betting by Ed Miller and Matt Davidow. They actually just released Interception, their newest book. I had an advanced copy. I've been already reading it a little bit. I've been enjoying it, but go and read Logic of Sports Betting, and then probably read Interception, because both are fantastic books by some guys that beat this business and know how this business works. And like, it's all great information in there that helps fundamentally change your understanding. Like that was the aha moment for me of, oh, this is how you look at it, was reading Logic. And it does it in a way that's engaging. It moves you along. It's not a boring book by any means, because let me tell you, I've slogged through some books on data modeling recently. They're valuable, but it's rough. This book is not like that. It keeps you going. It keeps everything in a way that you can understand it. It's a fantastic read.
Yeah, and that was definitely a softball toss to you to plug yourself, so by all means, take it. Now, I'm going to do my shameless plug for BTB and say, if you're listening to this right now, stay tuned. We actually have an interview with Ed Miller next week of this recording that we'll be posting out sometime in the near future, and I'm very, very excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome. We had Ed on last week to kind of like break the news of the book. I love that you guys got him too. He is one of my favorite people. I love hanging out with him.
Yeah, now that's a great segue though, because speaking of favorite people and getting to know people in this industry, can you explain to the listeners, and quite frankly, I'm a fanboy here too, what is it like to go to a bet bash? Can you say what is a bet bash and what is it like to actually go to this event?
So Bet Bash is this annual convention put on by Spanky, one of the other big names, big sharps in the industry. It's a celebration of sports betting, and it's also a great place to network and make new connections with other bettors. The people that are going to this, they are smart people. They are people who do this professionally, who are looking to gain more edges, who have edges. And yeah, some of them are really cool guys that will actually help you out and give you some guidance along the way. It's also like it's a party for 3 days. There's some really cool stuff that's more like a typical business convention. Like they have panels that you can go to and people are talking about different things that directly involve sports betting, like in-play betting, how books are doing this, how books are doing that. And then there's also like the speed dating, which was a fantastic way to go and meet a ton of new fascinating people in the industry. I got to catch up with some people that I already knew. I got to meet some brand new people. I got to meet some legends of the game. Like you meet so many cool people at an event like Bet Bash, and it was so much fun to be at. Even if we were up drinking until 3 o'clock in the morning and would have to get up the next day at 9 a.m. to go to some of these panels. But it was so much fun. It was so cool to be at. And like from a personal standpoint, it was really cool to be at one of those places because, you know, that's our niche. These are the only people that actually everyone there already knew who Unabated was.
Yeah.
And a lot of people listen to the show already, listen to what I do on the Unabated podcast and everything I've got going there. And I had people coming up to me who I didn't know who were just like, "Oh, you're Tom. Like, thank you so much. I love the show. I love what you guys do." Like, I felt like a rock star for 3 days. It was so much fun. I can't wait for next year's, but I was also like, thank God it's not for another year because I need to recharge.
Yeah. My last question is, without criminally implicating anybody, can you tell us what your favorite memory from Bet Bash was?
Oh man, I don't know if I can do that. I think I can. I think my favorite memory was Captain Jack, my boss, and also one of the best in the game when it comes to mentoring people in sports betting. He became a bit of a legend at the craps table over the course of 2 nights because it was him, Rob Pizzola, a bunch of other guys down at the table, and Jack goes on this heater. Just absolutely, we're talking like people were winning 5-figure sums. Low 5 figures, but 5-figure sums on this roll that Jack had. And so then the next day, we're just like walking around, we're doing all our stuff. Multiple people are coming up to even me. Anyone that could find Jack was saying, "Hey, just a heads up, you have to be at the craps table tonight. Like after Legacy Club, you're at the craps table." People coming up to me, make sure Jack knows he's at the craps table tonight. And I'm like, I know.
Run it back.
And he went and he did it again.
Oh,
and he had
wow.
a second amazing. It was an absolutely amazing moment.
Wow.
That's
I'm
awesome.
sold.
My personal highlight was the last night when we had the big party up at Legacy Club, and it's black tie because it was the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame dinner, and then this was the after party, and so everyone's all dressed up. And my goal for it, because there's one guy in the industry who is just he's famous for a lot of things because he is one of the best to ever do it, but he's famous for his sense of style and his fantastic outfits, and that's Roxy Roxborough. And my goal for the entire was like, I am here to wow Roxy at the end of Bet Bash. And sure enough, he was like, "Oh yeah, we got to get a picture in our outfits together. I have a picture of us in our suits." Like he was like, "You look fantastic." And I actually saw him just last week again, and he remembered. He was like, "Remember, if you don't have a pocket square for next year, I'll bring you one." And I was like, "I'm taking you up on that."
That's funny. So, I mean, kind of tying it all together, and we hit a little bit on this, but you know, we obviously are in this interesting time where we're obviously new-ish to sports betting as a country, but there's some people that have been doing it for a long time. There's obviously even more states that'll get added. But where do you kind of see sports betting going in the next couple of years? Obviously, they're adding more and more, you know, live in game and same game parlay tools. It's kind of like there's always just more and more options. But like, in your eyes, where do you kind of see sports betting going? I mean, it doesn't feel like we're at a fork, but it does seem like we're in a really interesting time.
It depends. There are a couple different ways that it can go in the future. It is a golden age of sports betting that we're in right now, with states becoming legalized, more and more books coming online, more and more ways to bet. The rise of in-game betting as a thing. We had Brandon Moran, who's a market maker for Sport Trade, on the Unabated podcast a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how he got into in-game betting back in the 90s. And that was literally, you would have to go and physically call someone and they would give you the line and you would tell them that you were going to bet. Like, just you'd have to be looking at the information that wasn't available back then.
Yeah.
Like, some people were just betting based off, you had the box scores listed in the paper the next day after all the games. And like, that was all that we had there. You didn't have DVOA, you didn't have EPA, you didn't have any of this. And the fact that we have all of this information, the fact that Pro Football Reference exists, like, we have all of this data at our fingertips to help us bet. And the thing is that the books have it too, but there is so much surface area now. Like, you see it on the soft books like DraftKings, FanDuel, the amount of different options that they have that they're offering. They can't put up good lines on everything. Not everything's going to have the best line, and that's why you got to go and find and pick your spots. But as for where I see it going in the future here, my hope is that states kind of realize that a lot of states have been butchering the implementation of sports betting, and that the cost of entry is too high, and that you'd make more money in tax revenue if, instead of saying, oh, it's a $10 million sportsbook fee, it's maybe make it $2 million, maybe make it even less than that, and let some of these other players in the game, let guys like Sport Trade and Profit Exchange be in a position where they can say, oh yeah, it's affordable for us to get a gaming license in the state and expand and move out and test the limits on what we can do in this industry and the different ways that you can bet, because exchange betting looks like a very, very promising future. It looks very healthy for bettors. It looks like a great way to go. But even the big players, you benefit from more people being in this space. You benefit from having more options and a healthier betting ecosystem. And I hope that more people realize that, because it's not necessarily that everybody has to be Circa. Not everybody has to be a sharp book.
Yeah.
In fact, professional bettors don't hate soft books. They hate the fact that they can't play on soft books. They don't want soft books to operate. They don't want DraftKings to turn into Circa. They want DraftKings to let them bet terrible lines. That's all they actually want. And that's the thing about it. I think that there's a good place for soft books. And yeah, part of it just does come down to the art of sports betting and the art of getting down for some of these guys. Like, I'm nowhere near that level. I'm not betting enough where someone is flagging my account. I've only been kicked off one book, but it is definitely, we need to change some things, and they need to realize that some of the practices that they have aren't the best practices for a healthy betting ecosystem.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that makes sense. And so along the lines of, you mentioned it, sports books they're in the mode, most of them right now, offer more and more, do more and more. They have the biggest attack surface, especially a lot of the soft books, right? That's what they would just want, more and more bets, more and more people flooding in there. So on the flip side of things, so, content creators, tools and resources like Unabated and others, where do you see us collectively fitting into that puzzle, or that continuing ever-changing maze of sports betting? So in other words, what more do you think you and we and other like-minded people can do to not only, one, stay ahead of the game, whether that's from a modeling or data perspective, or two, continuing to, again, fight the good fight, talk the talk, and continue to just share the knowledge with sports bettors?
Well, there's a bit of a catch-22 with all that. And it's something that I definitely struggled with early on in Unabated, was the fact that I'm talking to a bunch of these really smart people who are really good at betting, but they're really good at betting because they don't give up their edges. Rufus isn't going out and saying, here's how I model golf. He would tank his biggest moneymaker. But there's still things that we can give out. And like, I've asked those guys, how do you balance it? How do you balance content creation versus giving out your edges? And there's some things that you can still preach as good gambling habits, and still things where you can say, hey, do this, this, and this. And it's not necessarily that you're taking away an edge or you're eroding an edge, but it is absolutely a catch-22. The more people that use, the more people that are betting smart, the harder it is to find betting edges. But yeah, and for that reason, I think that there is still a place for bad content creators. Like, there's a place for people who are just giving out picks, because I'm like, you know what? I don't want people to lose their money betting that way, but it still does help us at the end of the day. But if anybody is interested, if anybody does want to get better, does want to get smarter, there are ways that they can do that. And I think us being that way, us being that, hey, come on in, we want to teach you, we want to help you, we're going to give out good advice, even if we're not spoon feeding you. Because the reality is, Unabated, we could totally just have these tools and go, yeah, bet this, this, and this right now. Well, that edge is gone, but bet this, this, and we could just be tanking markets left and right. But we don't want to do that, but we want to empower people to find their own edges so that it is a sustainable thing in the market versus people just going out and hammering these different lines and then, they're gone. But
makes a lot of sense.
And then like, there are some of the content creators who, quite frankly, I think are good for the space, despite being bad. Like, book it with Trent.
Yeah,
he is
entertaining, right?
I love Trent. I've met him a couple times. He's a great dude. I'm friends with a couple of the guys, like Nick Yall, the chief content officer over at Book It. Like, I love what they're doing over there. And a lot of people in the Sharp community, which are not me. I'm not Sharp. I'm an aspiring Sharp, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything, because I do not. But so many people get their panties twisted in a bunch about it's terrible for the space. Look at all he's doing. Who cares? You know what I love about Trent? He is the one person. He is the one dude out there making 6-leg parlays that have no correlation, and they just throwing darts at the wall. He is the one dude who goes, yeah, of course I lose. Have you seen what I'm doing? I'm not expecting to win. I don't know why anyone would tail me in the first place. Like, he really shot to fame for being the fade god. Everybody knew if Trent was on your game, it was the kiss of death. Like, he's honest, and that's what I love. He's fun. He's creating funny stuff. Every time I look at one of his videos, I'm laughing, and like, that's what he's doing, and it gets people interested in betting. And then, you know what? From there, they can go, okay, Trent was funny. Like, I like Trent's stuff, but I don't want to follow Trent's picks. I want to actually make money doing this. Then they come to people like us, and like, I think that's good for the space.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna continue to talk the talk and walk the walk, hopefully, man. So, Tom, I think that wraps it up for us, man. Like, even though I had to drop off unexpectedly for most of this conversation, sorry about it. Thank you very much. It was awesome. Appreciate your time, man. I know we'll be around. We'll be connected, and we'll talk again in the future. But thanks again, as always, Tom, and we'll be talking soon, guys. All right, everyone. Appreciate your time this evening. That was Odds on Insight with Tom Viola, Associate Content Director at Unabated. Until next time, see you later.
Take care.